Welcome to Shadowed Desires, a place where the quiet corners of the human heart are explored, where emotions people rarely admit to themselves are finally given a voice, and where desire, guilt, love, and longing collide in ways that leave lasting marks. If stories that dive deep into the hidden side of human connection resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because your support allows these stories to be told. And tonight's story is one I never thought I would share, because that night quiet, ordinary, and deceptively calm became the most intense and unforgettable night of my life. A night that reshaped everything I believed about myself and the boundaries I thought I would never cross. It began on a Thursday, the kind of evening where time seems to slow, moonlight spilling softly through half-drawn curtains as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, tracing faint shadows with tired eyes while loneliness curled in my chest like something alive. My husband, Thomas, had been away on an extended business assignment overseas, gone for weeks already, with months still ahead. And while I told myself I was strong and independent, the truth was the emptiness beside me in bed had grown louder each night, the silence pressing harder than any noise ever could. And it was in that stillness, just past 2 in the morning, when the soft creak of my bedroom door made me realize I wasn't alone. My breath caught as I lifted myself slightly and squinted toward the doorway, where a familiar figure stood hesitating. Framed by the dim hallway light, it was Ethan Knott's family, not blood, but someone who had slowly become part of my daily life over the past year. A close friend of the family, 21 years old, staying with us temporarily while finishing his studies. Someone I'd known casually at first, then gradually deeply in ways I hadn't anticipated. He stood there, gripping the doorframe as if grounding himself, his voice low and uncertain when he finally spoke my name. And I remember the way my chest tightened as I asked what was wrong. Because Ethan wasn't the kind of person to intrude unless something heavy was weighing on him. He stepped inside with hesitant movements, bare feet muffled against the carpet, the air between us charged in a way I didn't yet understand, saying he couldn't sleep. That his thoughts wouldn't settle. And when I glanced at the clock and saw the time, concern overrode caution, and I invited him to sit, watching as he perched on the edge of the bed, posture rigid, hands clasped tightly like he was bracing for impact. And when I encouraged him to talk, his words came slowly, carefully, as if he feared saying them aloud would make them real. He spoke about confusion, about emotions he couldn't explain, about thinking of someone constantly, someone who made him feel seen and understood in ways no one else ever had. And at first I felt relief, assuming this was a crush, a young man tangled in feelings he didn't yet know how to navigate. But when he shook his head and told me it wasn't anyone from his world, not a classmate, not a passing infatuation, a strange unease settled into my stomach, growing heavier with every breath. Until finally, with trembling resolve, he looked directly at me and said my name again. This time, differently, weighted, vulnerable, and admitted it was me he couldn't stop thinking about. That it had always been me, and the words hit with a force I wasn't prepared for, leaving me stunned, heart racing, mind scrambling to process what he was confessing. I tried to speak, to ground the moment in reason, but he began pacing, voice breaking as he confessed he'd tried to push the feelings away, to ignore them, to bury them under logic and distance. Yet they only grew stronger, insisting it wasn't admiration or confusion, but something deeper. Something that scared him as much as it consumed him, and I wanted to deny it, to tell him he was mistaken, projecting loneliness onto comfort. But when I looked at him, really looked, I saw sincerity, fear, longing. And something in his gaze stirred an echo inside me I didn't want to acknowledge. And that terrified me more than his confession itself. I told him gently that emotions can blur lines, that loneliness can make us cling to what feels safe. And though my voice was steady, my hands trembled as I spoke, because part of me felt the pull too. Quiet spark I had dismissed for weeks as nothing more than concern or familiarity. Oh? And when he asked, what if the feelings didn't fade? What if this was who he was? I didn't have answers. Oh, live the desperate hope that time would bring clarity, that this moment wouldn't define us. So I told him he wasn't alone. That we'd get through it together. And when he admitted he feared losing me more than anything, I reassured him I wasn't going anywhere. And in that fragile moment, seeking comfort more than intention, I invited him to stay, to rest, wrapping an arm around him like I'd done countless times before in harmless ways. Except this time, the closeness felt different, heavier, charged with everything unspoken. And though nothing happened that night, I knew something had shifted irreversibly. 'Cause love, or whatever this was, never fades quietly. It demands to be faced. And the morning after felt surreal, the house pressing in on me as I moved through familiar routines with shaking hands. Ethan sitting at the kitchen table, untouched breakfast before him. Dark circles beneath his eyes mirroring my own, and when we spoke carefully, cautiously, he admitted he wasn't going to pretend the confession hadn't happened, questioning why love needed rules, why feelings that felt so real had to be denied. And I explained as calmly as I could that love wasn't only about emotion, but responsibility, about not causing harm even when the heart insists otherwise. And though he agreed to try, the days that followed were thick with awkward distance, forced normalcy, stolen glances, late-night silences that spoke louder than words, until one evening the tension finally cracked. His quiet question about whether I'd ever thought about it catching me off guard, forcing me to confront the truth I'd been avoiding, that yes, I had. And that admission alone frightened me enough to shut the conversation down, sending him out into the rain and me into hours of anxious waiting. And when he returned, soaked and exhausted, confessing nothing could change how he felt, I realized denial was no longer protecting either of us. Because the distance didn't erase the bond, it sharpened it, and the breaking point came days later in the kitchen, when his frustrations spilled over, when he begged to be seen, truly seen. And in a moment of unbearable honesty, I confessed that I felt something too. That I'd been lying to both of us, and the air between us ignited, his hand brushing mine, my breath hitching before reason finally intervened, pushing him away even as my heart rebelled. But restraint only delayed the inevitable, because that night, lying side by side in heavy silence, one accidental touch turned deliberate, hesitation melting into surrender. And though I won't describe what followed, I will say it felt intoxicating, terrifying, and heartbreakingly human. A moment where desire eclipsed logic, where love flawed and forbidden felt undeniable. And when it ended, we didn't celebrate or panic. We simply existed in the aftermath, quieter, changed, pretending normalcy for the world while carrying a secret neither of us knew how to name. And in the weeks that followed, life moved on, routines returned, smiles came easier, yet the invisible thread between us remained. Subtle but unbreakable. And even now, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if love that defies expectation is something to be ashamed of or understood. I only know that some moments change you forever. And no matter how much you wish to rewind time, you can't. All you can do is live with what you felt and hope someday it makes sense.